Hello, everybody, and welcome to another edition of the MerlinCast. And I have Clockwork here as a guest again. And introduce yourself, sir.
Hey, everybody.
We're going to be discussing, honestly, whatever he wants to talk about, because why not? And you were talking to me about how you, today, on your day off, you were watching Justice League, and it made you think about The Flash.
Yeah, The Flash. I was watching, and he's able to affect the speeds of specific parts of his body without moving other parts of him. He's able to do certain bodily functions much quicker.
Mm-hmm.
Can he read at the same speed?
I think that at some point in the comics it has been proven that his brain processes things much faster at the same rate that everything else does, so he can read like instantly, like whole manuals of information. Does he understand it all? I'm not sure, but he at least can read all the words.
A lot of it just seems like he's wasting his time, so much of it then. Like, especially at the speed that he can go, like, he could read everything.
Well, I don't think... I mean, I guess it depends on the version.
He could literally read everything.
He could, but I don't think the Flash is someone that is necessarily preoccupied with education or knowledge.
He doesn't have to be preoccupied with anything. He's the fastest being in...
You know, that's true. But okay, one of the interesting things about the Flash, from a character standpoint, the only thing that writers often use for internal conflict with him is the fact that he's afraid he'll go too fast. That he'll miss things. He'll miss aspects of his life. What if he can never slow down? And so maybe, even though Flash is fast enough to basically break time, he can live in another time zone. And you're right, he could use practically an infinite amount of time to do whatever he wanted, to learn whatever he wanted. He would lose some of his humanity, perhaps, because he wants to live his life like a normal person. And I find a lot of superheroes, especially in DC, they find that they are at the status of gods, but they're people first. And I think trying to hold on to that aspect of themselves is one reason why someone like Wally or Barry or whoever doesn't do that, because they want to just pretend at least like they are normal and run at the same speed as everyone else.
Well, I mean, like, for John Jones, that's completely understandable.
Mm-hmm.
Like, he does that because he literally doesn't know what it's like to be a human.
No. But, I mean, he's a person on some level.
He's absolutely a person, you know. More than that, but, like... Like, look at Batman. He has no interest in being an actual person. He wants to just spend all of his time being Batman and, like, fighting crime.
All right, that's legitimate, but I think there are two reasons for that. It's interesting that Batman is very much a human person, maybe more so than most other DC characters.
Well, yeah, he's one of the most flawed people.
He's very flawed, as I was going to get into. Number one, he's obsessed. Like, he's got some kind of mental illness.
He has OCD.
He's OCD. He's very depressed. He's manic. I mean, he runs around like a bat and beats people up. He's got some issues. And he has some issues letting go, for certain. He's got some childhood trauma, PTSD, obviously. But also, he has far more resources than any standard person would. So in a way, that separates him from the common man.
It really makes me wonder what his family was into, though, before he took over Wayne Enterprises. Even before his father took over Wayne Enterprises, because, like...
You know, that's something that changes a lot. I know that his father was, like, a really good doctor.
Mm-hmm.
And I think his mother was just a wealthy socialite. And
what sort of a family does Bruce Wayne's mother come from? What if she's like a Jackie O sort of like...
I think that Martha
Bruce Wayne's mother
has been...
Martha Wayne was in the Illuminati.
I know that some recent storylines have played with that idea. That is, I think the Telltale game, his parents aren't very...
I mean, I think you have the movie right over there, The Son of Batman, where it talks about the League of Owls. The owl is like one of the symbols for like the Illuminati and the Masonic Lodge.
That's true. And that fact that his parents were connected to it. And I believe in that storyline, they tied that directly into his origin by saying his parents kind of were part of that elite secret society but rebelled against it, and that's why they got taken out. Which, I don't know. Here's an interesting question for you. Admittedly, The Court of Owls is probably one of my favorite Batman storylines in recent years, and it definitely adds a certain grandiosity to the death of his parents and give it a little more meaning. Like, it goes back generations and generations. Societally, it's on a much bigger level. But do you prefer that to just the idea that maybe he lost his parents because of some senseless random act of violence and he never caught the killer?
No, not at all.
See, I like that better.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because I feel like it gives Batman a more personal struggle. Like, he's always trying to stop it. He's always trying to prevent it and find that killer, in a sense, metaphorically, maybe literally, but he never does. And so it's always going to be something out of his reach.
Yeah, no, that's the idea, that it never ends.
Exactly.
There's always a bigger fish. There's always another pickpocket, you know?
Mm-hmm. So the war on crime is unwinnable.
Yeah. You can't stop crime because you can't stop poverty.
It's true. But Bruce Wayne does try to fight it both ways, because remember, as Bruce Wayne, huge philanthropist, he wants to... I wish that's one thing the comics... I know some people might not like it, because a superhero comic, he has to beat people up, but showing a little bit more of how he tries to basically fix things on a societal level, tries to redeem criminals and try to improve education and improve the areas of Gotham City. I would like that a little bit more, you know, because you're right. The cycle will
Like, if he...
continue.
Like, what is he gonna do, though? Is he gonna, like, show up in court and, like, testify on their behalf or some shit?
You know what, man? If this was like the Burton verse or something, he doesn't care if they're... Does anybody... If anybody went after Batman, he can take them down. He doesn't care. You know what? I'm Bruce Wayne. I'm Batman. You really surprised by this? Come on. You all secretly knew this.
It's true, Batman doesn't lose because he's Batman.
That's the one advantage he has, is that his character has gotten so immensely awesome based upon his own awesomeness.
He's got the strongest plot armor.
He does. He
any
has
character.
The power of ultimate convenience. He will win, and it's stupid, and people laugh about it, but he's become such a big character that you can put him in any situation, and he will always win because he's Batman. But the difference between him and just about every other superhero is because he is fundamentally a human being, there is much more of a possibility of him losing. And that's what I think that's one of the things people like about him so much.
There's a couple of... I think it's a 3-part episode of the Justice League series.
Mm-hmm.
Where the time gets altered while they're all in space. When they get back down to Earth, you know, we lost World War II, and Vandal Savage was...
First season, yeah.
The Fuhrer instead of Hitler. And they have to go back in time. And they kill a lot of Nazis.
Yeah, they straight up murder tons of Nazis, man.
Yeah.
That's awesome. But this is the thing, though.
It's always okay to kill Nazis.
Not because Nazis are the ultimate evil. Like, you're right, what was it? There's no such thing as a good Nazi? The Nazis are the best bad guys?
No, the only good Nazi is a dead Nazi.
I knew you were going to say that. The only good Nazi is a dead Nazi. But it's true. I've noticed that in comics, there's always the whole no-kill rule, which is interesting, taking the higher ground, but there's always exceptions. And Nazis, it's okay if you kill a couple Nazis.
You know, but like, really, when you get down to it, the tenets of National Socialism aren't that bad.
No, why do you say that? Because this is frightening me already.
I mean, when you break it down, nationalism and socialism in the right circumstances, that might just be what the country needs.
Well, I know that...
I'm not saying that all of the policies of the Third Reich are, you know, I can't think of the word at the moment.
Morally acceptable?
Oh, no, of course they're not morally acceptable. I'm just saying that just because, you know, they don't go along with National Socialism.
Mm-hmm. Well, all right. Well, let me see if I can understand you here. What you're saying is, okay, all right, okay, this is something that I've heard many times, you know, in my young experiences, my college experiences. There is always one, maybe every group of young people in diners have these moments, but there is always one conversation that would always come up over coffee. I've had it dozens of times to the point where it's redundant because it's just common knowledge, and maybe a lot of people can't accept it. Hope I'm not building this up too much for you, but you probably experienced it. Whenever people talk about communism, in theory, it's fine. It sounds great. If people were ideal, it's fine. The problem is, people are flawed, therefore it can never work.
Yeah, everybody's flawed.
Yeah, and that's the idea of communism. It's the idea that we will all take care of each other and we won't let our own greed and our own values and insecurities and our desire for more get the better of us. That self-sacrifice is something that as a society we're just not ready yet.
Not just like the wanting for more, but like I had the day off today.
Yeah.
I barely left my room.
Yeah.
I spent the day watching like Sherlock, Heavyweights, and Justice League.
Sounds good to me.
And if I was already going to be getting paid,
Mm-hmm.
because everybody gets paid,
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't be very motivated to go to work. I would.
So you're saying that if you
I'm
always
saying that everyone is flawed, and we all have lapses, but no one can account for or quantify how long people are going to not want to work or going to want to do the wrong thing.
because everyone's different and situations are always changing.
Yeah, it's too fluid.
So communism is just far too rigid to account for humanity.
Trying to get communism to work is like trying to bag rain.
You'll get something, but you'll miss a lot. Trying to bag rain. And if you get a lot, it takes a lot, and you lose a lot in the process.
And generally, the person who's holding the bag isn't going to want to hold it that long, so they're going to drop it.
They'll get tired, especially if they don't have help.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that's a good point.
Or they'll, sell the bag to someone else.
Well, I guess what I'm saying is I've had that conversation before that, ideally it would work, but as humans it won't. But I have never heard anybody say that nationalism, is necessarily a good thing.
I'm not saying it's necessarily a good thing. I'm just saying that under the right circumstances, like in the case of a national pandemic,
Mm-hmm.
it could be necessary.
To rally people together under a strict guideline or something?
Not a strict guideline, but just strict border rules, strict immigration laws, that sort of thing.
I guess it's more like, it's like when people, it's partially what people associate it to, because historically, when people say communism, I think automatically they go to the worst possible
Like
idea.
zombies.
Sure.
If a zombie pops up in South America,
You don't want to...
you're going to be hearing a lot of nationalist talk.
Yeah, like, you got to close off the border. That's true. But nationalism also caused a world war. So, I don't know. I personally think it's a bit flawed. But, I like, for instance, democracy you'd think would be good too, but obviously there's a lot of flaws there.
Oh, yeah.
But, anyway, I remember you also suggested as another topic, a little more of a lighter topic, hopefully, was that you wanted to have some sort of philosophical Tolkien discussion.
Mm-hmm.
Was there any particular thing you wanted to discuss?
Like, let's look at the parallels between Morgoth and Satan.
Oh, gosh. All right. Well, I believe we discussed how the idea... Okay, if Morgoth is essentially evil, he is. He was born into evil to counterbalance everything else. So he was
one of the 13 Valar.
He was. So, but it was his one... I always... Okay, this is the thing about Morgoth that I find kind of unfair. If it was his purpose...
Also known to Melkor as some.
Melkor to some. I like Morgoth, the original name, I believe. I think Melkor sounds better personally, but Morgoth. Anyway, the big bad of the Silmarillion and all of Tolkienverse. Essentially the god of evil, the darkness, whatever you want to call him. If that was his purpose, he was made that way. He was part of it from the beginning. If that was his nature, is it really his fault that he's evil? If he's meant to counterbalance everything.
No, nothing is anybody's fault. It all just, it happens. People do things.
All right, well, so...
I'm not saying that, the Valar are people.
Well, if they're the beginnings of people, then in some way they're connected. But this is the thing about Morgoth that I think is just a little interesting. Sure, why is he the one guy out of the 13 to be specifically evil? And yet he's powerful enough that he's able to fight the rest of them. He's almost on par with the rest of them. I find that, why is it just one individual or one being?
Because that's how the song goes.
The dissonance?
Yes. Yeah, that's the song. But that's what I find so cool about the Silmarillion. It's so tightly specified. It's like...
Go on.
Reading it is like listening to a very complex work of classical music.
Mm-hmm.
It's very dense and you don't understand everything that's going on, but it's rich and it feels good and it sounds good and it looks good in your head.
You can feel it.
Yes.
And even though it doesn't always make sense, it still can be pretty awesome.
Yes. but also like in the more like literal sense to the text at least. It is the song that like Ariel Levatar, like that part is like that's just part of the song.
Mm-hmm.
It has to be there. It can't be a song, you know, like how could the song of existence just be a simple like one key melody?
I don't think it could be.
Yeah.
Or it wouldn't be much of an existence if it was just one note or one melody, one scale. I mean, it's...
You can't underestimate Ariel Levatar as a composer like that.
Oh, man. No, the ultimate...
He won 2 Grammys.
That's true. Well, in terms of composition, I mean, the world of Middle-earth would be the ultimate example, I guess, if thinking of the creation as music. Yes, as a parallel once again to biblical references, because Tolkien, of course, was heavily influenced by Christianity. Morgoth is a pretty obvious representation of the devil, and some parallels being cast out. But you know, it's interesting. The whole, it kind of brings me back to the whole, one of the great arguments against Christianity being the problem of evil. Like, you know, why does it exist? Why do bad things happen? And I mean, for me, the answer has always kind of been, it might be difficult to accept this, but for whatever reason, for whatever the experience is, if there was no such thing as something bad, you can't really appreciate what's good. At least not as much.
Oh no, it's not that at all. Someone has to tell you what's bad and what's good.
Someone has to tell you that? So you think that what's bad and what's good is not inherent to everything? Or it's...
I think there are things that inherently you enjoy or you don't enjoy, you find repulsive.
Okay.
But I think the concept of good and bad is something that's...
Learned?
Yes, very early on.
Taught.
Not necessarily taught, but it is learned, it's seen, it's observed.
But in that case, is it different for everyone?
It can be, absolutely.
I guess. All right. Well, this is always one of the interesting concepts. Okay, so nothing inherently good or bad, just things you enjoy or don't enjoy. But you learn what you accept as positive or negative, but that doesn't come out of thin air. I mean, as a child born into the world, theoretically, with the blank slate, you just kind of absorb what's around you. So if you didn't have those kind of lessons brought to you, what would be the case? Would it just be more naturalistic? Would it be like a Tarzan situation where you're just kind of more...
It doesn't have to be like that at all. You can be in society, like communing with other people. Like, okay, for example, let's say that you were a child born this year on a recently formed commune of like a bunch of millennials who just lost their shit.
Okay.
And in this commune, all of the guys constantly have their dicks out for Harambe. They still wear clothes, but they just have their dicks out for Harambe.
All right.
And you grow up in that. And that's, you know, no one really leaves the commune for, you know, say till you're 8, 10. Why not?
So up until that point, that's just how it is.
Yeah. When you leave...
Oh, that's how it worked there for you? That's not right. But that's the way it was. And so you're not necessarily wrong. It's just different in that different environment. And so if you want to move in and integrate to some other environment, you might have to accept that...
It's circles.
It's circles within circles and chains. That's true. I just have a really funny image in my head. All right, man. Well, what else? What else is on your mind you'd like to discuss? Any other topic that comes up? Still have a significant amount of battery power, it seems.
Can we talk about the fact that they keep swapping the ethnicities of anime characters in the live-action movies?
You're going to have to give me some specific examples.
They almost do it across the board.
Swapping?
When the characters are depicted as being Caucasian in general.
Yeah.
It's played by an Asian person, or it's made in Asia, and they only use an entirely Asian cast. Or when the character's supposed to be Asian, we use a Caucasian actor.
All right. Well, I think the answer. All right. From my perspective, okay.
Like-
All right. Look, I can explain that. Just having observed cinema and the entertainment industry for years. Okay. If we're talking about Ghost in the Shell, for instance, okay, if it takes place in Tokyo, based on a story that took place in Japan, to make it more true to the spirit of the culture it was based on, probably better if it was Japanese. But we live in a Caucasian-dominant society where there aren't as many big Asian actors or actresses, so what do? We cast somebody we think can pull off the role, but who's a famous, well-known, well-liked Caucasian woman, Scarlett Johansson in this case, to make it more marketable. Now, that's obvious. One thing, and I guess if we're talking about, say, Fullmetal Alchemist, where the story takes place in literally a modeled version of Germany, where it would actually make sense to have Caucasian people in the movie, it's Japan. Most of their citizens are probably Asian, Japanese, probably cheaper and easier to find talent within the country. Plus, let's face it, it's an anime, and the Japanese would probably do it better, just inherently. But in this case, it would be nice if they had hired some more Germanic-looking people. That would have been cool to see them pull that off.
I mean, look at him. Look
Yeah,
at him.
yeah, he's not. Even from an animated perspective, I don't think he looks very Japanese now.
And Scarlett Johansson doesn't look... She doesn't look anything like it.
She's got the similar hair.
That's what they've been doing with, like, every movie she's done. I can't remember the last time I saw her play a character. It just seems like she's being herself now, with different haircuts.
She kind of is. I think she's maybe a slight... Well, I don't know. She seems pretty chill in general. I think she is just playing herself now.
She's sort of, like, typecast.
Into being herself, an action version of herself. It's because of Avengers. It's because when she did the Black Widow, that got her elevated to, like, action star status, and now that's all anybody uses for. Like, my favorite Scarlett Johansson movie, guess what it is?
A love song for Bobby Long.
That is a good guess. No, a little more obvious than that.
I don't know.
It was like her first big role. Dramatic.
I almost said The Mask, but that's Cameron Diaz. I
Not
don't know.
Not The Mask. Come on. I know you know this.
I do, but it's not...
She stars opposite to like a famous comedian in a more dramatic role.
It's not coming to me.
It takes place in Japan.
Oh! Of course, Lost in Translation.
Now, that's my favorite role of hers. That's my favorite performance. That's like when she first got started. Fantastic movie.
Beautiful movie.
Great movie. Transcendent movie. Just to talk briefly about it, it's one of those movies that... it's a very depressing movie in a lot of ways. And I watched it at a time in my life when I was going through a deep depression. But even though I could kind of emulate with the feelings those characters were experiencing, it also kind of made me feel a little hopeful for something. And the beauty of that connection at the end. And I always love the fact that you don't know what was said. And you could kind of just imprint whenever you want. But it seems, no matter what it was, there was an understanding reached between these two people in this different place. They might have had nothing in common, but they met and they were able to relate and help each other and grow and experience. And that's just beautiful. And that's what I love in film. And that's what I love in life.
That's like 70% of like all of Bill Murray's movies.
But that's why Bill Murray's so great. You know, he knows, and
he's just a beautiful soul.
He's a great person. He might seem like he's not, but I think he's a really good guy.
Oh my God, how could he not? He seems like literally like a perfect person. I want to hang out with him and like find out his opinion on things.
I have heard that he is a hard person to work with, apparently.
I could understand that. He seems, like he's batshit crazy.
But you know what? Being crazy doesn't necessarily mean you're bad. If you're happy, I think you're doing something right.
Oh, yeah. But, generally, if you're happy, you're not too worried about work.
True. But, hey, it's worked out well for him. Sometimes you got to go with the flow, and fuck it. People like him.
Oh, yeah. But, that's why he can do what whatever he wants because people like him so much.
Ooh, all right. What's your favorite Bill Murray movie? There are no wrong answers, I think.
See, the problem with that is that includes all of Wes Anderson's movies.
I'm asking you to pick one. It can change. It's not set in stone. I'm sure you can have different answers, but is there a Bill Murray movie that you feel particularly a special connection to? Enjoy watching, get good experience with?
Really, I have to say Rushmore.
Okay.
Rushmore is a big one for me.
All right. That's one of the less talked about Wes Anderson ones.
I think it was like one of the... It was the first one that I really paid attention to of Wes Anderson's movies.
Mm-hmm.
And it was like a very... I'd never seen Bill Murray in that sort of movie before.
Mm-hmm.
And then I love the segment that he did with RZA and GZA from the Wu-Tang Clan in the movie Coffee and Cigarettes.
Mm-hmm.
That, I mean, hell, I probably watch that at least a couple times a month.
Nice.
And it's...
Mm-hmm.
They kept hanging out after that. And it's so beautiful. They took over a bar, got people drunk, kicked the bartenders out. Whenever people would order a drink from Bill Murray, he would just give them tequila in whatever glass the drink they ordered would come in.
Oh, that's just a guy that likes to party. And that's not a bad thing either. How does Shia LaBeouf factor in, though?
He's the #1 MC in Hollywood. That's how. He spits hot fire.
Oh man, talk about becoming something much different than you really are in terms of people's perceptions. I don't know.
Well, I mean, I was thinking about this not too long ago. It's sort of like, I mean, you have to consider we don't, even with all the tabloid attention, all the media attention that, like, celebrities get,
Mm-hmm.
we still are only getting, like, we only see a slice of what they do with their time.
A sliver.
Yeah, a sliver.
And you know, it's funny with all the paparazzi and everything, all the news, we rarely get an insight into what that person is really like as a person. And I think that is very dangerous, is that people often associate celebrities as being larger than life. They are just people that cameras are turned towards. That's it. I mean, they are just people like you. People seem to freak out when they make mistakes or they have problems, when it's no different than anybody else. It's just that because they have more money, or more wealth, more fame, more attention, it somehow makes it a bigger deal. Only because we are paying attention to it, and we associate it with that. Like, otherwise, what does it matter? You know, people are so critical, especially if stuff like that. Maybe if it's a leader, you know, maybe that has more responsibilities, I could see it being a little more of an issue. But even in that case, you know, people make mistakes, and people are too quick to jump on them for making any mistake. Like, we're all human. We're going to make mistakes. It's impossible to avoid. We all have flaws. Why, you know, people just need to be more understanding, I think, in general. But I don't know if that's ever going to happen.
Nah, because everyone's too afraid to talk to each other.
Has that gotten better or worse?
It's gotten absolutely worse, especially with texting and social media becoming what it has.
Mm-hmm.
People don't know how to talk to each other anymore. I'm terrified of what the next generation is going to be like when they get into office. My girlfriend does a fair bit of modeling on the side. She works all the time. She does like 3-4 different jobs on top of the modeling.
Cool.
But, you know, she shows me like everything she does, and like a lot of it's very serious, artsy sort of stuff. And
Cool.
I look at some of these, and then I look at her, and it's ridiculous because, like, they're, you know, like, they're on, like, different websites and stuff, and I just think that, like, you know, people see these pictures, and that's, like, all they're ever going to see of her.
Just an image.
That's all they're ever going to see of her.
Or know of her. Yeah.
Yeah, that's it. That's the only exposure to her they're ever going to have. And they're going to have, like...
Ideas.
They have, like, just by seeing a person in an image, you have, like, some idea of what they are as a person.
You think?
Absolutely, you know, I mean, like, you look at the case for a DVD in a bargain bin, you know, you look at the characters on it.
Yeah.
You generally, like, you can't, I'm not even saying just generally, you automatically come up with, like, a general idea of, like, what they are based on what they look like.
That's true, but the casing of a DVD or something is not watching and experiencing the show itself.
I'm not saying it is. The point is not to trust that assumption.
So
you automatically make an assumption that you can use and go by, but you don't trust it in, like...
you're right. Like, general appearance does say something about a person, but it's, you know, just one element.
The expression on their face.
Like, yeah, they could be...
How can you not, you know, make assumptions about...
You can't.
People if they're not about the expression on their face.
True.
You have to. That's how we interact.
You're right. You're right. You have to go off it, but communication has to increase, and you get to know somebody better. You learn more, and there might be much more revealed. There will be. There just will be.
Yeah, no, it's just like these guys see these pictures of her, and they have, like, you know, they have this idea.
No idea.
When in reality, she's nothing like that. She's absurd. She's the most ridiculous person I've ever met. She's the kind of person who will try to make friends with everybody, and, like, will talk to you about anything for as long as you let her.
That's pretty cool. Sounds like a lucky guy to me.
We'll like try to sneak up and, like, crop dust strangers just for the hell of it.
Oh. Well, nothing wrong with that. But you're right. I'll be honest, I don't think that's the first thought that somebody looking at a picture of some model lady would probably have, thinking about that aspect of what she's like. But our imaginations are powerful things. That's for sure.
Almost half the time when I go to kiss her, when she gets my face, she just goes...
I doubt many people would imagine that scenario.
No, they don't.
But that's beautiful, though, because you actually you are experiencing being with another person, and you will know her in a way much more than most people ever will, and even your own perspective, you know her in a way that no one else ever will, regardless of how long you know her, how well you know her. Your perception of her, your experience with her, your connection to her is your own. It is its own unique thing, independent from everyone else.
With that being said, Shia LaBeouf spits hot fire.
But Shia LaBeouf
spits hot fire.
Is he a cannibal, though? I guess he could be. Alter ego.
Who can honestly say that they have never eaten a piece of their own body?
I'm sure a lot of people probably can. Oh, they. Anyway,
You've never chewed your fingernails, not even once.
All right. You're all right. Sure. Yeah, it's happened. I have. This is gonna get gross. Yeah, Yeah, I have. I know a little bit about what I taste like. Yes, I wasn't really thinking about it, but yes, I. Usually, it's much drier and deader.
People do it without thinking. Like when you really watch people, everyone does it.
Yeah, it's true. Well, it's, you know what? One of the basic things that we do as children is we suck on the thumb.
Not just that, but like it's a grooming thing. Every animal grooms with their mouths.
It's true.
We do it a lot less, obviously, than other animals, but there's still some residual tendencies.
Absolutely, there are some residual tendencies. I agree, sir. I agree. But, yeah, man, as I was just saying, one of the nice things about technology is I do feel like, on a positive side, I have met people and been able to have conversations with people that it would have been much more difficult or maybe even impossible to otherwise. Like through discussions about anime and stuff years ago, once again going through kind of a darker time in my life, YouTube helped me with that for expression and just meeting other people and having these like Skype discussions for hours talking about silly things. And it starts off with just that. You have things in common with people. Like I got a friend in Texas, and I got a friend in Canada, and I've got a couple friends in England. People that I might have never met otherwise, and that I've slowly built kind of friendships with. Like I know a little bit about them personally, a sense of who they are, and I like them as people. It's pretty awesome. And that's one aspect of technology I do like is I think when it's used for that, it can be a good thing. But at the same time, though, I guess meeting somebody face to face and being able to approach them and try to be friendly and have a conversation, you really do think that's getting just generally more difficult? Because I think that...
It's not that it's getting more difficult, it's that we're getting lazy about it.
Well, one thing that bothers me, I'm kind of old-fashioned. The texting thing?
Yeah.
I hate it. Not necessarily, because, I love the English language, English major, I love to write, obviously, but when you're trying to communicate something, really, like have a legitimate conversation, like I don't know, for instance, let's just say, like, a romantic relationship with a woman or something, there's got to be some complex things you're trying to convey, and if it's done online or phone,
nuances to what you're saying, inflections.
Yeah, the way you speak, the way you carry yourself, and assuming you're trying to be as honest as possible with what you're talking about. If two people are having
conveying some sort of warmth and affection,
that it's hard to do that over just a text, and even the emoticons and stuff. It helps, but it's no substitute.
No, not at all.
And it's just like a lot of stuff. And if you're in a bad mood or you forget a detail, or it's much easier for someone to
you misspell a word, you forget a word, a keyword.
It could change the meaning entirely to somebody.
Like didn't.
Mm-hmm.
Forgetting the word didn't or did.
You're yelling at somebody. I didn't do this. Da 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 da. Or I did. Oops. Why would you missay that? Because I was angry and it was a misstep. No, and boom. I hate that. I really do, and I think there's too much of that. But I don't know. Then again, I don't know. It's difficult.
And also, just, kids are reading less.
Mm-hmm.
Spending more time on the internet.
Do you think the novel is dead?
I don't think it's dead, but I definitely think it's in its twilight years.
Yeah.
These are dark times we face, my friend. There's going to have to be a cultural renaissance again.
I hope so. But doesn't there have to be a dark age before a renaissance?
Like I said, these are dark times.
Oh, no.
I really think that President Trump could be the signal of the beginning of the cultural dark ages.
Well, I don't want to get too overly political on this.
It does say something about the culture, though.
It does. Even if you put us up, well, when I first found out about it, I thought to myself, a joke. Because you got a B celebrity, the guy on The Apprentice, this guy who clearly doesn't know what he's doing, this B celebrity, we elected to be the leader of our country, and then on top of that, he spewed all this hate, and people elected him anyway, maybe because of it, or maybe because a lot of people just didn't care and they wanted to try and bash the system. I don't know, but we've had some ridiculous choices for leaders, but at least some of them, all of them to my knowledge, at least in recent history, have had some political experience. And I don't know. Donald Trump is my president. It doesn't even sound real. Like it sounds like a cartoon that would come up in some... It just... we'll see. I like to hope for the good things, but I really don't know, man. To be honest, that's why I kind of focus on other things. my geeky things because I don't know.
It's escapism.
I like.
And honestly, in these times, I can't blame you.
Escapism is what I like to do. But yeah, man. Anything else you'd like to discuss before we wrap it up? Battery's getting pretty low.
I guess not.
All right. Well, I guess that this was a pretty good MerlinCast, pretty laid back, went all over the place, but some good conversation. I hope to have you back on the show sometime, man. Again.
You know where I'm at.
I do, man. Thank you. And all right, everybody, stay magical.